I want to share something with you, how to attract high value clients, business opportunities, and even romantic partners. If we are meeting for the first time, my name is Ekene Anu, and I am the lead coach of the iconic Womanhood Circle and suite of programs. I typically share with my clients, and my clients are women who have a lot of expertise, they have a lot of value, and they want to elevate in their lives, right? And they want to elevate in their businesses primarily. This is the area that we work in, and I help people distill their expertise in such a way that they can elevate and make more money, be more profitable without stress and struggle. But also, the same things that we do here also impact your personal life as well. You will find that you will attract the kinds of people you want in your network. You will also attract the kinds of romantic relationships. If that's what you want, you will begin to attract them. I'm going to share with you a couple of things that people are missing because I find this all the time, that you work so hard, but you're not getting the results that you want, or you're not able to command the price that you want, or you have the price, you don't have any of the clients. So I want to share a couple of things with you. And you guys tell me in the session, tell me where you are watching from, what kind of work you do. And if you have questions, I'd love to hear your questions because I really want to offer you some value here today. I'm having a boot camp intensive July 29th. I can only take a very limited number of people because I want to deep dive with them. And so if you're interested, what I want you to do is send me a DM and say, boot camp, right? I'm interested, boot camp. Just put it in today. I'll know what you're talking about. And I will send you the link tomorrow because we only have a limited number of people because I really want to be able to coach you myself through this process, okay? But I'm going to share with you some nuggets right now because so many consultants, so many coaches, so many business people, even it doesn't matter what you're selling, one of the biggest challenges is getting the clients that can actually pay you what you want, right? And I find so many people struggling. Let me tell you about some of the clients I've worked with and some of the challenges that we have overcome together. And I primarily work with a lot of consultants, thought leaders, knowledgepreneurs is what I would say, right? One of my clients, she had at the time, and she's posted this on my page, so her testimony is there for the world to see, right? So you'll know this is legit. When I met her, she already had like a massive influence, right? She had lots of influence. She had, I can't remember how many followers, but she had a lot of followers. She had, not now, like so many people have the Ks, but this was back at the beginning of Instagram. And I think she had like 20,000, 40,000. Now she has like 100,000 followers at the time, right? And she had all this, she's speaking here, all of these things, and doing all the things. And she had always so much engagement on her posts. And so when I met her, I was like, hey, way to go. I was still, I was very proud of the work she was doing. I followed her. I was aware of her. And I thought she did amazing work. She clearly knew what she was talking about. However, what was surprising was that she was not making much money. In fact, she approached me to do a strategy session because I had shared something similar to what I'm sharing with you right now. And she wanted to do a strategy session with me. And so when I told her how much my price was, she said, I'm not trying to argue with you at all. But she was a bit taken aback, but she was also like, the reality is, based on how much I'm earning. And I was like, I don't understand. You are known as an expert in your field. You do great work. Why aren't you earning? You need more than this to be able to be okay, right? So why aren't you earning at the level of your expertise? Your earning should match your expertise. Now, we live in a time where often it does not. There are people that are earning and their expertise is down here. They have very little expertise, right? Right. And there are people who have expertise here and their earnings are here. When there's a mismatch, if your earnings are high and your expertise is low, you're not going to last long. People will get to know you. That's when they call you a scammer. They'll get to know immediately. You'll see that those people very rarely have people who stay with them, very rarely have people who after a year or two can continue to say good things about them. That's what one of the things I look for when I want to work with someone is, what are people saying consistently about them, not just the one time. And are they constantly changing industries or changing niches? Often that's because they don't have goodwill in that one niche. They change again, they change again, they change again, right? So if your expertise does not, your earning is up here and your expertise is down here, I don't like when people come to work with me. I go through an intake process. People who are invited to join the mastermind, because not everybody is accepted into the mastermind. Sometimes people want to join the mastermind, and I say to them, you're not ready yet. There are people that we turn away because we're not just chasing money. It's not just about the money. What I want to know is, do you have the expertise that I can help with? I need to, if you come to us with mastery, we can help you. We can help you take it to that next level. But if you are lacking in that area, you need to go build that up. Then I will tell you, like, you know what, maybe you start here, right? And then build up this other area of mastery. But when you have mastery expertise, you should have the income and the earnings that match it. A lot of times people have the expertise, but they don't have the earnings. And if you don't have the earnings, you have a couple of challenges, right? Number one, it could be that you don't have a big enough circle, right? You don't have a big enough client base. So, because even if you have the right pricing and you have the right product, if you only have one client, it's not enough, right? So you may not have enough of that. Or your pricing is off, right? So if your pricing is off and you can have so many, you can have a number of people, then you're not going to have the earning. Or you don't understand what your gifts are, you're not going to have the earning. So let's kind of talk about some of the things that I help my clients with. So this particular client, one of the things we looked at was really looking at her product, looking at her offering, looking at herself, all of the above. These are all the things I work with people in the mastermind, right? I work with them in our Iconic Woman Mastermind. I help them look through everything, right? What is it that you offer? Because even your pricing has to match you. And I even look at, what are God's gifts? What is your gifting, right? So I have a couple of different, I'll give you another example. Another client that I have has a gift of influence. Because when she came into the mastermind and I looked over her program and looked over everything she was doing, and she's actually opted to work with me privately even as well. So she's up level. I looked at all the things that she was bringing to the table. And, I don't have a one size fits all message or method, because I don't believe in that. There is no one size fits all. I have seen people become multimillionaires, build multi-million-dollar practices and businesses so at $7 pricing and $10,000 pricing, $100,000 pricing. So whatever your pricing, it just has to match your expertise, but it also has to match your gifting. So this particular client has what I call a gift of influence. I want you to know that there's some people who have who have a supernatural gift of, God has given them that gift of influence. He has given many people into their hands, many people, because she already just casually popped up on the scene, right? And this is authentic, not buying followers or anything like that. But on every platform she's on, she has over 100,000 followers on every platform. And so now what we're doing is working to design her offering, because she already has a massive following on every platform, not just one. She can afford, because you have to look at some things like conversion rates. She can afford to have a product, right, that speaks to the masses, because she has masses. Now, someone else though who only has 2,000, 4,000, that may not be their gift, that area, right? So they can't, more than likely, Is it not wisdom to use the same methodology? So this person can have a $39 price point, because if you take 10% of that 100,000, even if you take 5%, right? If you take 10% of that 100,000, which is a pretty good conversion rate, right? That is what? 10% of 100,000 is what? Somebody help me. 10,000. 10,000 times $39 a month is what? So if you even are able to do that, even if it's 1%, right? 1,000, right? Times 39, that's $39,000 a month. So you can afford to create a product that is at that level. But if there's some people that don't necessarily have the gift of influence, like that hasn't been, they have the grace for massive influence. They may have the grace, right, for a different type of client. Like I feel like I'm graced for that, right? There's certain clients effortlessly I attract. Now that person may only have 1,000, 2,000 followers. Let me tell you a thing about a lot of high ticket clients, people who pay a lot of money. They often don't follow. They hardly ever comment. They very rarely will like. They may not, you won't even know they're there, but they're checking you out for consistency. One, because a lot of those clients are private. They don't like people knowing what they're about, right? They create a mystique about the way they live their lives. They're just typically really private. So they're not necessarily going to click like and all of that. So that person with that 1,000 followers might actually be positioned for, and when I look at your expertise, because I'm going to look at all these things, I'm like, okay, I see you. And I'm going to share with you the 4 things in a second, right? Because I'm looking at all these things. I'm like, let me tell you, you are positioned for that person who is going to pay $10,000, who is going to pay $50,000. In fact, they're looking for someone like you. They're looking for someone like you. And this is why you should never, right, say, oh my God, this is, like, find your authentic path. Too many people are struggling because someone told you this is the only path. And you get there and you're unprepared for that path, or you're not graced for that path. I believe God has given us all different types of grace. Different types of grace. In fact, the scripture says that we should not think of ourselves more highly than we ought to, right? But each according to the measure of faith that has been granted to them. And so when you don't sit and understand yourself, which is why my program in the Iconic Women Mastermind, the big, deep work we do is really knowing who you are and trusting that. So you can stop looking left, right, up and down and making yourself crazy trying to be like everybody else. You have to know who you are, what you're about, right? What you're graced for. And then you can proceed and you attract. But when you're out of order, when you're in the wrong position, wrong place, you look mismatched, it doesn't work. Let me tell you what happens, because there's a difference between likers and people who are clients. Whether it's $39 or it's, $300,000, it's the same thing. Clients are making a commitment. People who are making a commitment are looking for 2 really good things, whether they can articulate it or not. They're looking for congruence and consistency. So consistency, they may watch you for a season, right? And depending on how much skin they're going to have in the game, that season may be long, right? Long lead time, right? Congruence, they're checking, like, does something feel off with this person? Are they authentic? They're checking. And again, depends on how much skin they have in the game, because if it's 39, if it doesn't feel right, I can exit. It's not that big a deal. I can afford to lose that amount. So I don't mind testing the waters with that. But if it's 300, I'm going to definitely, wait a minute, that's a major investment. If it's 3,000, depending on where you are financially, that may be a major investment. So they're looking for congruence and consistency. And when you don't have these things, when you're trying to be somebody else, which is going to lead me to the first P, right? Then you automatically make them feel, they can see that lack of congruence. And this is what's happening. Let me tell you, I've been doing this for a long time. Someone asked me a question today. And she said, how old were you when you started? And I was about 39, and I'm about 49 right now. And I've been 10 years in this. And in the 10 years, I've had people, I mean, goodness, there's so many things that we're doing now that savvy clients, there are things some people are doing, they don't realize that really savvy, discerning clients, because you have to be true to yourself, and you have to have patience. You can't chase everything, because often what you're doing is repelling really savvy clients. Let me talk about the first P as I talk about what people are doing wrong in the first P. The first P is presence. And I mean authentic presence. When you are a person that really understands, every single one of us has the ability to have presence, but many of us are busy presenting. We're presenting, right? We're behaving as if we're a certain type of person. We're celebrating wins that aren't really win. They just, it happened great, but we're making it bigger than it is. We're telling, oh, this happened, but it's not really what happened, but you're trying to make it bigger, right? But you know what that says to the super savvy client is like, this person doesn't even trust themselves. Why should I trust them? They feel like they need to make, they're exaggerating something. And let me tell you, savvy clients can tell. I'm not going to mention some of the things, but there's a couple of different things that I was invited to be part of. I'm trying to see how to say it without saying what it is. But I was invited to be part of a community that is attached to a very prestigious organization, right? And it seemed selective initially, right? You have to pay, which a lot of people don't share, right? A lot of people announce it. I've been selected, I've been invited, but it's a sales thing, right? It's not that, it used to be more selective. It's actually not as selective as it is now. But I'm talking about like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I got it and I was like, oh, sounds really amazing. And then I started talking to people because I didn't know much about it. I was excited and I was just debating whether to do it. And so what I did though was I went to the people that were in my advisory, informal advisors, right? And so I was looking at a lot of corporate opportunities, and there's a certain type of client I was really looking to attract at the time. And I reached out to a few of the women and men that I knew in the space. And I said, hey, I have this opportunity. Are you familiar with this? And this is how much it's going to cost. And it was thousands of dollars. And again, a lot of people don't talk about that. A lot of these, when someone puts, top this, sometimes they've paid for it, right? It's a paid accolade. And I said, it's thousands of dollars, but it's not even just the money. I want to know, if you were to see this, what would be your perception of it? And 85% of the people, right, were like, yeah, I wouldn't think too highly of that. In fact, I would be like, really? You're doing that? And that's the group I was working to connect with. Again, so this is the thing, having clarity of what you're offering and who you're trying to connect with. And she was like, a number of them, but one of them, very good friend, she just straight up like, oh no, girl, like, no, I would not. And she said, I did it and it hurt me. She did it like a year before me. I did it. It didn't add as much value. It was a vanity. It was like a vanity thing. It didn't add as much value, and it hurt me with certain people. I don't think is necessarily worth it. But if you want to do it, go ahead. But I don't think it's necessarily worth it. So because it was almost like it would have appeared to them that I was presenting as more than I was. I was trying to present, I was trying to do this, trying to tell people I'm this, and what it does, again, remember I said, clients are looking for congruence, authenticity, especially today. Because especially if they're going to trust you with their business, a business is like a baby. I spent so much money on consulting in the last couple of years that half of that money, honestly, I was so annoyed, right? And so this year I was like, I don't want any consultants, I beg, until I have clarity. But there's some people I've been watching In Igbo, there's ane soifai, nesoha. I'm following them. I'm just watching. Huh? Let me just be seeing because I'm looking for consistency and congruence because I don't want to waste any more money. I don't want to waste any money. I'm no longer interested in your fancy marketing. I want to know, can you do what you say you can do? And are you going to care about me? Right? So those clients are watching. Are you presenting or are you authentically yourself? Are you really who you are? It doesn't mean you have to be perfect. It doesn't mean that you have to get everything right. Because truly, if you're a business owner, you make mistakes. There was a big um, hullaboo some time ago. I don't know if it was this year or last year. Honestly, sometimes I feel like the months are just running together for me. But there was a big hullaboo some time ago where some woman, a woman who had worked, there was a very well-known coach, very well-known woman coach, and fabulous following. People loved her and stuff like that. I don't follow her, but a lot of people, are into what she does. She's fairly well known. I'm aware of who she was, but somebody had come into her company and worked in her company and basically came out later, which was kind of right and exposed her for not having the most organized company. Like her back end is a mess. And her company is chaotic. And she talked about how working for her was, and she just really went into it. And of course, there were so many people, any kind of negativity you want to put out here, there are 1,001 people who immediately will jump on it and be like, yeah, right? Because the world feeds on negativity. But honestly, a lot of people that I know, including myself, when I saw it, I'm like, listen, this is business. Do you know how many people are hustling? Like we're just trying to figure, like not necessarily some people are hustling, but other people, they're like your operational side doesn't mean you're not an amazing coach. Your back end may not be the way you want it to be. You're trying to figure it out. I'm personally looking for operational support. I've been looking, that's where we got the consultants, right? Not for my coaching, but for my operations. My team will tell you, like we have invested in trying to get support in this area because it's not an area of strength for me, right? I really need to hire a COO, right? And so I'm aware of that. Now, you being aware that most clients that are hiring, happy to pay well, they don't expect perfection because they are in the thick of it themselves. They know what they're dealing with. Because if you're living a real life and you're really successful, you're honestly successful, and the success was through your work, then you've made mistakes. You've made mistakes. The only people who expect perfection are people who have never really done anything. Because if you've done something, you know you're going to make mistakes. If you've done anything at all, you know failure is part of success. So they're not expecting perfection, but too many of us are afraid. So we present. We present. Let me tell you something. I don't have, go look at my profile. I don't have here, there, this, that. There's so many things I don't even have on there. Things I've even done that I don't even have. I hired someone to do my bio. I've done other people's bios, but I actually hired someone to do my bio. And when she sent it back, it was so juiced up. It was so juiced up, right? And I remember I sent it, like she just sent it to me, and we have a file where everything is there. And so someone on my team, we can pull like collateral, right? Whenever I might be invited to something, they'll pull collateral and send. So that particular bio was so juiced up, and I was like, okay, didn't think anything of it, put it away, paid her, and moved on. I remember someone on my team sent it, and I was on a panel somewhere, and they were reading the bio, and I realized it was the juiced up version. I'm like, okay, just move on, right? Because I felt like it was a bit more, right, than like it's too much. But let me tell you why I'm mentioning this. Majority of my clients that have come to me are not coming because of any juiced up version of a bio. They are not saying, oh, have you gone to this? Are you at this? Are you da da da? Like, they're not looking for that. I don't need to, say I'm going to Harvard Extension and then make that sound like I'm going to Harvard Business School. No, it's Harvard Extension School. You can go. It's available, right? You don't need to do those things. In fact, they turn off high quality clients because it's presenting. The same thing with high quality romantic partners too. The more inauthentic you are, the more they are turned off. Because they may not know what's off. They'll just know something is off. Like, I don't know, something about her energy is off. I don't know. You'll hear men say that. You'll hear clients say that. I don't know, I don't know, something just doesn't seem right. Just, you know. And so the first thing is being present, having presence. And there are other things around presence, right? So I'm talking about the mistake we make in trying to have presence is presenting. But I debrief what presence looks like. People often say, oh, you have great presence to me, right? And I can turn it on and off. And sometimes, you might catch me in Kroger and I'm not going to have any presence at that moment because I'm shopping for bread. I really don't want any present. I don't want to be seen. I would rather not. I'll tell you, I was in Mall of Dubai, right? When I went to Dubai last year, and someone said, iconic womanhood coach, iconic womanhood or something. And I was so like, OMG. And she wasn't at the conference that I went. She just was visiting Dubai with her family, but she's someone that follows me. And it was a cringe moment for me because I was with my daughter and we were at the mall for I think the fifth time. I was so tired of this mall. I was over it, but she kept wanting to buy this and buy that. I'm like, oh my God, I need to get out of this place. So I was not really feeling very va-va-voom. And so I was like, hey, but you know what? I said to myself, I'm actually glad that happened because I'm a real person living a real life. And I don't want to create a life that then becomes something I have to keep performing in. Like a lot of people are performing, and honestly, authentic, the kinds of clients you really want are clients who want you. They want you as a person. You don't want to feel like you have to perform. You definitely don't want to attract a romantic partner you need to perform for. That is a recipe for suffering. Let me help you understand. It's a recipe for suffering. So all this performing of femininity, performing of elegance, I'm not saying don't try to elevate and don't try to be more elegant and don't try. It's nice, yes. Learn whatever, etiquette and all of those things, fine, right? Because I'm going to talk about that next. But don't make that what you hinge your value on. Because the truth of the matter is, you're not always going to be like that. I love those memes that say what he thought he was marrying or what he thought he was getting and what he's actually getting, because that's reality. There are times like you're going to be home, you're going to be more relaxed. I am a proponent of don't wear crappy clothes at home. Have a few nice things that you're wearing comfortably at home that are not wholly dirty, bleach stained. Throw that crap out. But at the same time, don't make yourself a slave to it, because the reality is in your life, I'm getting older, even for me, like I'm literally getting older. And I was looking in the mirror today and I said, ooh, let me tell you, I'm not going to partner with anybody who requires me to be a baddie. I want to be a baddie. Nothing wrong with being a baddie. I just hired a trainer because I'm like, I need new help, right? But at the same time, I will not have anybody who is going to require me to be anything, because as I get older, I'm getting grayer. And I'm like, you're getting older. Period. You need someone who's going to love your essence. And you want a client who actually gets your essence too, because also they'll give you grace. They'll give you grace, and you'll be able to have a deeper, they'll even give you opportunities to try new things, right? So we have to allow ourselves to be true if you want to really attract the best. The presence is really key. Yeah, someone says, Catherine, she said, I can't deal with inauthentic people. You'll be surprised that your marketing is slick. You're on, because you're like doing all the things. You've hired the person, you've hired the coach or the marketing people, and they've told you this is what you need to do, and you're doing it all, and you're online, 24/7 or whatever, and you're not attracting the people. Is because there's a congruence issue, because you're presenting and not really being present. We talk about the second thing, which is going to sound almost at odds with the first, but it's not. You just have to know how you do it. And this is what I teach. And this is why I teach what I teach the way that I teach it. Presence is like the foundation. But the truth is that depending on the type of client, the $39 client is not some, some $3,000 clients, $30,000 clients will also be $39 clients. It's true. But very few $39 clients are also going to be $30,000 clients, right? And in fact, actually, it's very few on both sides. There are some, like for example, for me, one of the things that I'm not a funnel person. Like when I see someone I want to work with, I do not want to be forced to go through your funnel. If I have no other way to engage with you other than through your funnel, I'm not going to work with you. And a lot of people are like that. A lot, because there a lot, especially if you're thinking, if I know that what my solution is likely going to be in the 4 figures or the 5 figures, even in the 3 figures, quite honestly, but if it's likely going to be in the 4 figures or 5 figures, I don't want to have to watch your free video or go through your free challenge or take your free quiz or whatever it is that is the base level and then go to the next. And then I don't need to go up your ladder. I already know. And so just a quick gift to you, a funnel, right? A funnel is like a funnel. Someone said, what's a funnel? A funnel, you know how when you're pouring something through a funnel into a smaller container, right? So a marketing funnel is where you have like everyone watching, all of you guys are here. This is literally the top of a funnel in some ways, right? You're at the top of a funnel, right? And so you're all here kind of watching. Now, what will take you from here watching to be a client is usually an offer, right? And you drop in here and then you kind of go through, usually it's a freebie, a free giveaway, and then maybe a low cost and then a high cost, right? Funnels do have their place 100%. I'm just saying, depending on the type of client that you are attracting, I think you should have a funnel. I have a funnel. However, I also have ways that just straight, you don't need to go through a funnel. I have many clients, most of my clients actually don't go through a funnel. Most of my clients, I've had clients who come from a live like this, they've seen it, they're like, okay, they do a little bit of due diligence, maybe it takes them 24, 48 hours, and they sign a check for $10,000. They don't, it's ready to go. And I've done it myself too. I've been that client as well. Because when you're ready, you're ready. You don't want to have to go through ticket. So what I'm saying is you don't want to lock someone in and they're locked in. They're like, I'm not doing all that. I want to know I know this person can help me. Okay, when I'm ready, I'm going for them. Clarity, right? So but the thing about those clients though, is I'll tell you, you can get them and you sound like, she gets it. Ooh, I like her. But then they go to your wherever, your next place, right? Like you meet them somewhere. They go to your next place, like your website or your Instagram, or, well, you should have a website, or whatever the case is. And it's like, it doesn't match. There's no polish to it. They'll pull out. I've been unsold that way. I remember I've had this happen actually twice or 3 times, twice that I can immediately recall the individuals. Actually 3 times. Yes, 3 times. So the first time she had a great presence, on Instagram, talked through the got on a call. And then I said, so if you're offering something that is of substance, right? And you're saying it's super expensive because she was charging a lot of money. And I'm not talking about $5,000. She's talking about $25,000. Okay. Because I needed a big solution. I'm willing to contemplate that. I'm like, okay. So, but I expect that there is some sort of documentation for your process, because she had a promise, but I wasn't clear from her language that there was a process to her promise. And people who have a process often have documented it on at least at the bare minimum, a PDF, right? On your website, something. If there is no polish to that, right, then I'm a backup. And most high value clients will do that. They will, if it doesn't, again, congruence. What you're saying sounds good, but let me tell you, we live in a time of plagiarism. I cannot tell you how many people have taken my content. There are literally people probably on here right now, notes, right? And tomorrow they're going to come up and do this exact live, but they don't know what I'm talking about. They're just repeating what I said. It sounds good, and you think they know what they're talking about, and you go to work with them and you're disappointed. You're disappointed because they've gotten the bare minimum and they've announced themselves as experts. And this is why, if you're going to be discerning, and savvy clients are discerning. So they want to see the back end. They want, not the back end, they want to see the documentation, because they know there are so many people stealing content, stealing all of this stuff today, presenting, so that this is part of due diligence. I'm going to go to your site, or I'm going to say, as I said to this number of people, this sounds good, and I was actually ready to buy. Can you send me some documentation? So people that come to my mastermind calls, and I'm sure we have some people on here, I'm very straightforward. We talk through it, talk about the numbers, and I say to them, I'm going to send you a link to the site so you can take your time, go through it, because we don't do refunds. So I want you to count the cost. I want you to be clear. I don't do a hard sell. I don't need to do a hard sell. I want you to go through it. I want you to be able to click on it. You can click here. You can see all the receipts. You can see the testimonials of the people that have been. There are like over 20 testimonials. You can even talk to someone who's been in our program. Like go ahead, check it out. But we have a documentation of our process that yields the promise. If that is not there, and that documentation, we wanted to have some polish to it. That's part of polish, right? So we wanted to have that. A lot of times we don't have that. Or you have it and it's just, so one person sent me the documentation. And when I tell you, I think she was maybe because I have a Mac, so I use Pages, and I have to export to Word. And this was a couple of years ago. And I feel like she was exporting from something to Word. And so when it came, it was formatted all off, right? And so it looked crazy. It was like the formatting was crazy. And I realized that probably what had happened was that she had exported it, but also what that said to me was she didn't look at it again. She just exported it and sent it. So she wasn't thorough. Like, we make mistakes sometimes too. Like, we have typos and whatnot, but ask my team what we talk about. We talk about typos, right? They happen. I hate when they happen. We forgive ourselves, we move on, but we have a conversation about it. Like, why did that happen? We have to make sure it does not happen, because it makes us look like we don't know what we're doing. We're not gonna miss a sale because of a typo. Stop. Like, we need to get it together. Like, on my team, they will tell you. We have had whole meetings on typos. I make typos too, though, sometimes too. And I have to have a meeting with myself. Ma'am, get it together. Get it together. So we think about we look for these different things. Polish, a high value client is looking for polish. Even in a romantic relationship, I see so many women now talking about, I want a rich man. Essentially what they're saying, they call a high value man, They want a rich man who's going to take care of their needs. Now, there are rich men and there are rich men. There are rich men who have a lot of money and are not necessarily in a certain kind of social class. Like it or not, this is life, right? But they have a lot of money. They're happy to take care of you, right? That man is different from a rich man who comes from a particular kind of social class, because he's looking for a type of woman who's going to fit into his world. And he's looking to have certain types of conversations with his woman. And so it's not just that you're pretty, and I'm not talking about a sugar daddy, because there are different types of providers, right? I want a rich provider is what people are saying. Listen, I'm not mad at you. I understand. Me, myself, I'm ready. Rich providers, kindly come, because some days you don't feel like working. I understand. I get the soft life. Some days you don't, even though you love your work, some days you're like, where's my rich provider? Please. But there are categories of providers. There are sugar daddies. A sugar daddy does not care anything about you. He doesn't care. You don't have to be elevated in any way for a sugar daddy. In fact, the less elevated you are, the better, because you will always be in position for him. Because elevated women want more. But women who subject themselves to just have sugar daddies, who are just paying their bills, they're usually not very elevated, because they don't need to be. A sugar daddy just wants your body, he wants your pretty moment. He doesn't want your conversation necessarily. And if it is conversation, it's more so listening to him and telling him how amazing he is. So if that's the kind of provider you want, those providers do not require anything. But, well, they require physical. You need to be physically pleasing. And in fact, he needs to be physically proud of you very often, right? And that physical pleasing can be to him, which is why you see a lot of women who live their lives according to sugar daddies are constantly, they have to do plastic surgery sometimes, pump the butt, pump the boob, pump whatever, because it's according to the different person's preferences, right? To a Barbie doll that they are plugging according to, right? So they're sugar daddies. But there are providers who are partners, husbands. Providers who are partners want partners. They want partners. They do want you to be someone that they are proud of, whether it be physically, etc., right? But they need more. They need more of an elevated woman, right? Depending on where he is, his level of elevation. So if he's a very sophisticated man, he's going to want a sophisticated person by his side, because he's going to want to have those conversations. And it is not enough to appear sophisticated, because there's a lot of performance. It is not enough to appear sophisticated. It is not enough to, you wear certain things and quiet luxury and whatever performing thing that we're doing today. What books do you read? What is your level of thinking, right? It's not just the performance. Unless, again, that's not a real partner. A real partner wants you to elevate. Because there's a third kind of provider, a controller. A controller does want you by his side, does want a measure of your elevation, but your elevation can never exceed his. It can never. He's the only star in that relationship. He can only be. So if you ever threaten his position, you will be knocked down. He would prefer you to have just enough for him to be proud of, but no more. So he will not support you going for your master's or your PhD. Bachelor's is enough. He will not support you doing this, that, or the other. But doing this is enough. He will support, but to a level. So the kind of person you want to attract, you have to think critically about that. You have to think critically about that. So if you're attracting sugar daddy types, then you have to ask yourself certain questions, right? So this is why I said that what I'm talking about applies to business, but it also applies to your personal life as well. Even in your relationship, let me tell you, I was married for a long time before I got divorced. And my father, my late father, he used to drop knowledge from time to time, And I remember one day he gave me a very hard truth. And this was true, even though I ended up getting divorced, this was true. And this is true for you, because one of the things that I like to do is be straight and be honest, right? I made the right decision to get divorced. I would have preferred not to have to make that decision. So I want to share this with y'all, right? And I really value marriage. So let me share this. If you're married on here or want to be married, I want you to lean in, because my daddy gave me some knowledge I want to give to you right now. So let me tell you what my dad said to me one day. And at this time, how long had I been married? I can't remember, but it was like maybe 5-6 years. I had just had my baby. Yeah, I had just had my daughter. And so it wasn't that long. But, I don't know if anyone has ever been a brand new mom. A lot of times we don't talk about when you become a brand new mom, how traumatic it can be. It's traumatic to your body. It's traumatic to your psyche, especially when you're unprepared. because, we're in la la land thinking, oh, when you have your baby, you will just gently breastfeed and gently this, and no one prepares you that it will run your body ragged, your mind, like you almost barely losing yourself, right? And I had to go back to work after, I think 8 weeks. I pushed it as far as I could. So I had started working. We had help in the house, but I had a nanny. I was working as a pharmacist at the time, 12-hour shifts, which meant I was working really at minimum 14 hours kind of out of the house. And when I came back, I was drained. All I could do was mother, and barely that, right? The days that I worked, and the days that I did not work, I was so tired. I was just mothering. And I remember my dad was visiting, and he was like, he would try to engage me in conversation. I'm like, I had nothing to say. I'm tired. I don't care. I'm tired. Ah. And so he said to me, he said one day, he said, Ekene, what's happening to you? And I'm like, what do you mean, Daddy? He's like, what has become of you? You've lost yourself. And I'm carrying my daughter at the time, and I'm working, and I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you never really have anything interesting to say. I said, whoa. Every time I try to engage you in a conversation, I ask you what books you've read. I ask you what you've done. You're just there. Physically, you're just there. Intellectually, you're just there. You're not exciting. Let me tell you, my dad told me this. I went and I cried bitter, hot tears. I didn't speak to him for the rest of the night. I was so angry. I said, how can you? What? It was what they call a hot slap of truth. It was painful. Now, of course, he's a man. He was a man, right? He didn't see, because he's a man. He's never been a mother. He doesn't know he didn't know that I was up all night and da. But he was very clear. He was like, let me tell you something. Let me tell you this. So the rest of what he said was this. He said, listen, you need to get it together. Because if you don't get it together, let me explain something to you. The person you're married to, he's an intellectual. He likes to think. He likes to talk. He's dynamic. He's out there. You better get it together, because I'm bored and I'm your father. Nobody wants to be with a boring woman. The tin was a hot slap of truth. It was brutal. Brutal. And I know it's hard to hear. And I don't believe, again, this is not about performing, but it was authentic. So if I had to do that season all over again, and this is what I eventually started to do, was reclaim my life. Because what he was really saying, I mean, he mentioned my husband at the time, right? Because he was saying it as this is one of the consequences. But what he was really saying, because he continued talking, and he said, you've lost yourself. And he said, you're my child. What are you saying? I know the books you read. I know how you thought. I know how you think. I know you're brilliant. What's going on? And in fact, so now let me share with you later on, when I started this business, I left pharmacy, I started this business. One of the things that my dad used to love to do, he would call me and say, how's business? And he would delight in my stories. When I would tell him, he's like, oh my God, that's his, okay. We would have great conversations about, just everything we were talking about, whether it's, thought life, how your thought life impacts your experiences, personal development. We would have deep conversations. He was thrilled to see, and he was like, that's right. You're getting it, girl. You're getting it. I can remember him saying those things to me, right? I still sit with those things, or notes he would write me, or voicemails he would leave me. I still have many of them, right? And I think that was the key. He was like, don't lose yourself. And so many of us do. We do. We lose ourselves. And you become a shadow of yourself. And so when you become a shadow of yourself, you are not attractive, even to yourself. But you're not going to attract the great clients. If you are working yourself to the bone, hustling out here, trying to get the clients, you're hustling, it shows that you're exhausted. It shows. Nobody wants sufferhead life. So you're not going to attract people, because they're going to be like, well, I don't know what's going on over there, but it looks like suffering. I don't want suffering. I don't want suffering in my life. Nobody wants that. People want to be around joyful energy, right? Vibrancy, radiance, whether it is personally or professionally. And so this is a very key thing, right, in how you handle yourself, how you handle yourself. Now, there are a couple more things, but I can't go into all of it, right? I can't go into all of it. So these are some of the things we kind of break down as far as how to have a high quality experience in your life. Whether it is you want to attract high quality clients who are going to pay you what you're worth, who are, and I don't like what you're worth. They're going to pay you according to the value that you bring. Let's put that in place, right? I just had a client who hired me to do something for her company, and I remember when she was asking me how much I charge, and I told her this is how much it would be. I sent her the proposal, and she was like, she's like, and I said, this is how much I charge. And she's like, well, I can probably get, basically she was saying, I'm not trying to like negotiate with you, right? But the truth is I've hired people to do this before, and they do it for a third of the cost or at the most half of it. And I'm like, yeah, I get that. But this is how much I charge. And there's a reason why, because I do things differently. And she decided to go with me. And I'll tell you what made me so joyful at the end of my experience with her. She was like, her whole team was, and they were like 20, she has a team of like 20 something people. Her whole team was like this. I've been at all hands meetings before. I've never been at one like this. This was so good. People on the team that work for other companies, that did contracting for other companies are like, I need to get your information. I need to get your information, right? You have to have the mastery and you have to bring your A game, but you also have to do these other things in order to attract the client, in order to attract the experiences. And I want to go deep with you. So let me tell you the two ways that I help women like you go deep, or, business owners, or even in your career, because sometimes you're working in your career, you're not getting the promotions because you're missing some of these things. All of these rules apply. Like I said, all of my solutions are holistic, because women, we are multifaceted and we're all the time managing all the facets of our lives. So my solutions are multifaceted. They will hit at least 2 to 3 points of your life. So whether you're in a career, you're in business, or you're talking about love, this solution will work for you. 2 ways. If you're ready, if you're like me, you don't need to be in a funnel. You want to deep dive, right? Jump into the deep. Then you want to immediately go to iconicwomanmastermind.com and apply. And one of my team members or myself will get on a call with you, walk you through the process, tell you what we do, right? And then you'll be able to make a decision. And I will also be able to know, because if you talk to my team member, the next thing they'll do is either send you to talk to me, or sometimes based on your application, they'll send you directly to me to talk to me directly. All right. So that's one thing that you can do. Go to iconicwomanmastermind.com. The mastermind investment is a 5-figure investment. 5 figures. Starts at 5 figures in USD if you are ready, but it's a 12-month program. If you are ready, then you come talk to me. All right. Extraordinary experience. And I'm not just saying that, other people have said that. Now you can go to my page. You can watch videos and see. Second thing you can do. This is for people who maybe you're just getting to know me. It's a little too much commitment. I get that. I'm with you. But you do want the support. You are ready to get something that you can execute right away, right? And you don't want to spend 12 months. You want a quick, and you want to see, you want to shift some things. Maybe you need to shift some things to get the 10K, right? To start there, right? Then you want to get into my DMs today. I have an experience that I am doing in July 29th. It's coming up pretty soon. It's going to be a boot camp. It's going to be from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I want to walk you through these processes. And I want to talk to you. It's a small group that we're going to have of women there. And this is going to be at an affordable price. affordable price. If you're a business owner, this is an affordable price, an affordable investment for you, right? I'm going to walk you through. I want to deep dive into presence, right? Where are the areas? We're going to look at your digital presence. We're going to talk about your how you're showing up. We're going to talk about your polish. I shared a little bit about polish now, which was credibility is part of polish, but we're going to also talk about the other things, right? That help people, people are rating you, whether you know it or not, they're rating you, but how are they rating you? And it's not about constantly doing, like today is a no makeup day for me. I'm like, I'm not putting on any makeup. I'm coming on this live and we're going to have a conversation. All right. But it's still going to be polished. It's still going to be polished. It doesn't mean that I'm always going to be shiny and brand new, right? Because sometimes I am, but sometimes I'm real, right? But you're always going to be polished even when you are not done up. We're going to talk about how to achieve that, right? We're also going to talk about positioning. So many of us don't understand positioning. Let me tell you, you cannot get a freshwater fish in an ocean, and you cannot go deep sea fishing in a lake. It doesn't matter how fancy your equipment is. You cannot catch what you can catch on the deep seas in a lake. It's impossible. Yet so many of us are doing this in business. You are adding layers and layers and layers to your offer, when what you really need to do is reposition yourself. You are targeting the wrong client. You're in the wrong fit for this client. Just like if you marry down the straight talk, you're in the wrong match. Wrong match. Okay? If you end up in the wrong relationship, you mismatch. Kule walk. No matter how much you try, it will not walk. It will not work. So you want to be positioned. And the reason why let me use romance as a metaphor here. So many people say to me, I just keep meeting this kind of people. I just keep meeting these kind of people. I just keep meeting this kind of people. And I say, what you need is to move. You're in the wrong place. If you're only meeting these kind of people, yes, you have to look at yourself, but if you've done your own part and you're only meeting these kinds of people, maybe that's all that's in that area. You need to reposition. So we're going to talk about positioning. And remember, if you came in at the top of the conversation, I was talking about positioning looks different. It's not for everybody. Like everybody's rushing to the Delta lounges now or whatever upscale lounge now, because that's where you meet upscale high value men. It's not everybody that should go. You have to understand yourself. You have to understand yourself. Maybe you want there are millionaires that are at Home Depot. They're construction millionaires. I was part of a mastermind, a mastermind where everyone in that mastermind was making over a certain amount of money, right? And I'm talking about numbers. Like you had to apply to get into it, and then you had to be making a certain amount of money to be in it. I was the only Black woman in that particular mastermind. Black women make that kind of money, by the way. I just happened to be the only Black woman in that mastermind, which is why one of the reasons why I didn't renew. It was great knowledge, but it was jarring, and I was like, I can't be spending my money to come and be another only. I want to be around other people who get what I'm going through, which is why my mastermind really works. I want to get around women who are, we have women across the African diaspora, African Americans, Caribbeans, Africans, right? We want women who understand what you're going through. So I was like, no, I need that for myself. This is not going to work for me. But I was in it for a year. And let me tell you, some of the men there were not particularly sophisticated, but they had bank, okay? They had money. They had plumbing companies. They had all kinds of companies, cement companies, widget companies, making major money and happy to provide. Not particularly sophisticated and don't want to be. They're quite happy with who they are. The kind of woman they're interested in they're not going to go to the lounge. Those men don't go to the lounge. They drive a truck or they drive a whatever. And they're great guys. So, but you have to get clarity. You're contorting yourself to be in the lounge. It's not in the lounge. It's not the right positioning. You have to know yourself. This is why we go into the process, right? Do you see why the process? It's not just okay, I need to do this. You can't get all your information off TikTok. right? You have to like know yourself. This is why this is a coaching experience, July 29th. If you just are meeting me and you're like, I like what she's saying. I'm not ready for a deep dive, a deep commitment, 12 months. I don't know. I have to know her. I don't know. But I do like what she's saying. And I really could use a quick boost. Then you need to be in July 29th's class. It's 10 to 3. So it's a deep, deep, deep dive, right? But I am only going to take a small number of people. It's not for hundreds of people because I want to be able to know you all by name. And I want us to do the work, right? So it's going to sell out. So get in my DMs. The order in which I get the DMs is the order in which I'm going to send the offer. If you accept the offer, then you go ahead and you get locked in. If you don't accept the offer and the space runs out, it is what it is. Because honestly, we're in 2023. We don't have time. We have to keep it moving. The year is half gone. If you looked at your balance sheet, or if you haven't even looked at it, you definitely need to be in class. But if you looked at your income statement or whatever it is, and it wasn't looking the way you wanted to look, you need to be in this particular class. Okay. So come to the class July 29th, get into my DMs. We're going to talk about presence, I said, polish, positioning. And then finally, I'm going to be talking about visibility. Strategic visibility. It's not about just being everywhere all the time. You can't be on every app, right? Strategic visibility. Strategic visibility. I'm going to talk about all those things. You're going to leave there with a deep understanding and knowing what next to do. What next to do. So you want to make sure you come. We're going to do some work. Everything we do is transformational. Our experiences are extraordinary by the grace of God. So I'm excited. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for listening.